My name is Gideon Hankins, and I am with the Boy Scouts of America. I am interviewing David Marcel Duarte. The date is 4/3/2016 at the Napa Valley Care Center.
Yeah.
So, when were you born?
I was born in San Bernardino, California.
San Bernardino, California.
Yeah. June the 9th, 1941.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who are your parents? What did they do?
My parents were Julius and Petra Duarte, and they lived in Colton, California. And it was a little town right outside of San Bernardino. And I think the population at that time was about 5,000 for the whole town. And my dad was the town undertaker. He owned a mortuary. And so anyway, that's what he did for a living. He was an undertaker. Yeah. And my mother, she owned this little beauty shop, dress shop, in San Bernardino. And so, in those days, I suspect, but I'm not sure, my mother drove, later on in years, not very much. She refused to drive anymore. And so my father or another relative would drive her.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I had two brothers, Dennis and Danny. What was the question again?
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, so I had my younger brother was Danny, your grandfather, and then a few years later was Dennis, which we call Deanie, and he was, he was 5 years younger than Danny, I think, and then I had two sisters. Two sisters were adopted sisters, Bertha and Jenny, and they came to live with us when they were much more older. They were already in junior high school when they came to live with us. Okay. All right.
Did any of your siblings or adopted siblings serve in the military?
Yes, my two brothers served in the military.
Okay.
Yeah, and all of us went to Vietnam. So yeah.
So what were you doing before you entered the service?
What was I doing? I was going to junior college.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was studying engineering, and not doing a very good job of it. I was more interested in partying than engineering, so, yeah.
And which branch of the military did you serve?
I served in the United States Marine Corps.
Okay. And did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted. Yeah, it was peacetime when I enlisted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And why'd you go Marines?
Let's see. It was a family tradition. Let's see, Uncle Frank, Uncle Rudy, Cousin Joe, Cousin Gilbert, I forgot all of them. They were all Marines, and so I had to do Marines. There was no choice. I mean, if I'd joined any other service, I would have been, just, I don't know, blacklisted in the family or something. I don't know.
Okay. So what happened when you left for training camp and some of your early days during training?
Well, we don't have training camp. We have boot camp.
Oh, boot camp.
Okay. Yeah. What happened? Everybody cried. Mama cried. Grandma cried. Yeah, which is a joke, So, and my dad gave me stiff upper lip, and all that speech, like that. And my father never served in the military. He had a industry vital to the war effort. He had a mortuary, so, and so yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, my two brothers, they kind of shook their head, like, what are you, crazy or something like that. And anyway, and then that was the reaction.
Okay. What happened to you during your first couple days of boot camp?
Oh, golly. I remember I'd never been so shocked in my whole life. Boot camp in those days, I seem to remember, was like 16 weeks long. I'm not sure about that. Something to check up on. And the first 2 days were in this, I don't know what you call it, kind of a filling in battalion, is where they get all the recruits until they have enough, to form a platoon, and then this group here are all platoon number so-and-so. And that's what I was waiting for, the 2 days, yeah. And it was, waking us up at the crack of dawn, calisthenics, and marching, and cleaning up, and doing that kind of stuff. That was it. No classes of any sort, not any training. But that was it. It was just horrendous. A lot of noises, barking, yelling, swearing, and in those days, the drill instructors were allowed to slap the recruits around. And
I didn't know that.
oh boy, did they? Yeah. And they even broke an arm of one of the recruits. So, and we were all terrified, just literally terrified. So yeah. Anyway, the first 2 days, and then we formed our platoon, and then the real boot camp started after that.
And what was that like once the platoon all got together?
Oh, that was more yelling, more waking up at the crack of dawn, more obscenities, more slapping around, marching, like, march here, march there, march back, right there, and then getting shots, and calisthenics, and classes in close order drill, classes in Marine Corps history, classes in everything, so, yeah.
So what were your instructors like other than slapping and breaking arms?
What were they like?
Yeah.
They were mean and tough, They were all combat veterans, and they were mean and tough, so.
Wow.
Yeah, we had one drill instructor, his name was Ransom, and we used to say behind his back, he ain't handsome.
Okay then.
Yeah. He used to hit us with the flat part of his sword. He would take his sword out and just whack us really hard, And he just loved it that he could raise a welt on your butt, so.
Anything else going on?
In boot camp?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what else you mean. I mean, there was all kinds of stuff that was going on, like, I remember we had to pass this test, was the swimming test, and they took us out to this swimming pool. It was big as a lake, it was the biggest swimming pool I ever saw in my life, And we had to swim the width of it, not the length of it, 7 times. And I thought, well, I can do that, But they wanted us to use 7 different strokes.
Oh.
Well, I only knew 2 strokes, dog paddle and modified dog paddle, So it was an effort for me to pass the swimming test, And so I finally got through that. And but it was a test. It was, a challenge, And so that was one thing. And then there was more classes, more training, more history, more this, more that, like that. And then, let's see, somewhere in the middle of it, or towards the end of it, they gave us a rifle. Up until that time, we didn't have any rifles. And then they were going to take us to the shooting range, the rifle range, and they're going to instruct us on how to shoot the rifle. So, I really excelled in that. I just, from the very first, I wanted to shoot the best. So I shot expert. There's graduates of degrees of proficiency, and there's a marksman, which is the lowest grade, and then there's sharpshooter, which is above that, and above that is the expert. And so the very first year I shot expert, and I shot expert after that.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what I did, like that. And then once you graduate from boot camp, and it's remarkable. You start out, you start out in boot camp, this gaggle of geese trying to march together that don't fit and out of step and everything like that. And then you fast forward to graduation, and you got this exquisite, disciplined group of cadets recruits that just go in step, just boom, 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 boom. And it's a beauty to see, so anyway. So then after boot camp, you're sent to your next duty station, what you're gonna do. My cousin and I, John Ilanis, we joined together. He went to flight training in Jacksonville, Florida. It wasn't really flight training. They taught him to be a mechanic, air mechanic. And they sent me to what they call 2nd ITR, which is 2nd Infantry Training Regiment. And I went there, and that's where they taught us how to snoop and poop, and go scouting, set up ambushes, cut trail, follow trail sign, all that stuff, how to bivouac, how to start fires, how to live out in the open, all that stuff. And that's what I did on 2nd ITR. That lasts just as long as boot camp, about 16 weeks. And so anyway, that's what we did there. Kind of a novelty there was that when I was in boot camp at MCRD San Diego, there was 2 brothers that had some celebrity status, and they one of them wanted to get married, and this was the Everly Brothers, that they were on the hit parade, like Wake Up Little Susie and a bunch of other songs like that. This is the rock and roll era, and so when we went to 2nd ITR Infantry Training Regiment, they also went there, and they did a concert while we were in 2nd ITR, and it was really kind of neat. Yeah. Or dismember you or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you adapt to military life?
At first, not very well, but it wrapped around me real easily. I liked the discipline. I liked the regimentation. I liked all of that. And it gave me challenges that I could achieve. So, and I made private first class coming right out of boot camp, which is a distinction. So I was earmarked for climbing up the laddership role. So I did that right away. So that was pretty good. So anyway, yeah.
So where did you serve?
Where did I serve?
Yep.
Well, my first 6 months was at Camp Pendleton down near San Diego, and right after that they shipped me overseas. That was my first deployment. So I went overseas, and then, is that right? Yeah, that was right. And then some of these dates and times get a little jumbled, and then I wasn't there very long, probably about 6 months in FMF, Fleet Marine Force, when they had the Cuban Missile Crisis, and we were diverted to Cuba, to go,
Right.
It's outbluff Khrushchev and all that, all the communists and all that stuff. But there is if you've watched the sequence of Marine Corps battles, they have these landing craft, that go into the beach and open up,
Right.
dump down, and the Marines come out. Okay, those are all planned. It's not haphazard, So there's a row of landing craft, and that's called a wave. And this second wave is called the second wave, third wave, and so on. And then it goes from right to left, boat team 1, and then boat team 2, and so on and so forth. So when they gave me my assignment to land on Cuba, I was in boat team 1-1. I would be the number 1 landing craft in the first wave. And so it didn't take a genius to figure out my chances of surviving were pretty small, So anyway, that's what I was assigned. So we never went we never invaded Cuba, so so anyway, that's what we did, so yeah.
That's pretty heavy, right there.
Yeah.
So, what were some of your memories of serving abroad, leaving home?
What are my memories?
Yeah.
Well, that's too broad of a question. I mean, I have a lot of memories. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you some funnies. Okay. One of the things that we're taught in the Marines is called the 5-paragraph order. 5-paragraph order that's what we learned in boot camp, is you do things by the numbers, and there are 5 things that you learn to do, and they hammer them into you. And so when you come into a new position, and our new position would be an LZ, and landing zone. And so they gave us this LZ on this little hilltop in the middle of the jungle, and they flew us in on helicopters, dropped us down, and then we go over there and we denuded the top of the hill, knocked down all the trees, and then let's see, knocked down all the trees, and then set up perimeter defense. That's really important. The Marines are taught to do this right away, just like clockwork, and that's to protect what you have there, like that. And so anyway, we did that, and that took all of one day, It takes a whole day to do that. And then we're all set up. And then after you set up the perimeter of defense, then you start finding a place to put your little pup tent, and then where you're going to sleep that night. And there's a whole thing that you have to do about protecting against the rain, and you put trenches around the tent. Excuse me. So when it rains, the water goes around the tent, not into the tent, and so on. Anyway, there's this light drizzle all the time in Vietnam, just this light drizzle, makes everything turn to goo, the red mud there turns into like peanut butter, just sticks to everything, like that. And so anyway, we get word that the helicopters are coming. They're gonna, because this is the next sequence of event that's gonna happen, and so they're gonna come in. They're gonna drop off supplies, and then and mail. So they come in. You can hear them And the Hueys make this distinctive sound, thwop, 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 thwop.
Right.
And so they come in and hover above us. They don't even land. They just drop their cargo, and they drop the mail and everything like that. So we have. They were putting all the supplies away, and they have mail call, and I got mail. And mail call, and so they hand me my mail, and I look at it, and I open it up. It's a letter. It says, "Greetings from the United States of America. You've been selected for service." They drafted me. I'm digging a foxhole in the jungle, and I'm digging it as deep as I can. And they sent me my draft notice. So it gets a little bit funnier. So I go up to my lieutenant, and I said, says, "Sir, I got to go back to the States." And he goes, "What's the matter? Somebody die in your family? You have a hardship?" And I said, "Yeah, somebody's going to die, all right. It says here they're going to lock me up if I don't report." He says, "What are you talking about?" So I handed him the draft letter, and he goes, "Give me that thing," like that, So, and it's, it's a joke because, here I am all covered with, red peanut butter mud, so, and I'm digging a foxhole, and so lieutenant takes it to his superior officer, the captain, and the captain is a company commander, and the captain, you see them talking, I'm watching them, like that. Everybody's watching. By this time, everybody knows that I got my draft notice. They all think it's hilarious, So, and so they're talking back and forth like that, and then they wave over the first shirt. The first shirt is the first sergeant, and he's like next to God, this first sergeant. They bring him over, and he talks to him and everything like that. And then they all look at me like that, they don't point at me, but they just look at me. And that whatever they're talking about is not good for me, so, and I said, "They're really not taking this seriously, are they?" And so anyway, so they called the whole company to order. Right there in the mud, in the drizzle, they called the whole company to order. And we all stand at attention, waiting, for instructions or orders, And so, so the captain comes out, he says something to the lieutenant. The lieutenant calls the company to order, and we all snap to attention. And he says, he gets the letter, and he says, "Whereas, let's see, I was a private first class. Private first class Duarte has been selected for selected service. He is to defend this country. He will now be awarded the Order of the Shaft." And all of a sudden, the first sergeant comes out of the jungle with this piece of bamboo with leaves still sticking out of it, and he goes, "Whereas this now will be forever known as the Shaft." He says, "Private First Class Duarte will now use this in all events not related to the Marine Corps, and will carry it always, and provide it on demand, and so they had this big ceremony where I was awarded the Order of the Shaft, and so everybody got a big chuckle out of that, And then after the ceremony was over, they put us back to work digging foxholes, and every once in a while, the first shirt or the lieutenant would come up and says, "Where's your shaft?" "Here it is, sir. Right here's the shaft." And like that.
You think they could put that on your DD-214?
No, they won't go. They're not going to put that on my DD-214. Order of the Shaft, So yeah.
So how did you stay in touch with your family back home?
Not very well. I remember we were back in Okinawa, reforming, filling our vacancies with more troops, And I got a message to report to battalion headquarters. Battalion headquarters is where God lived. God was the battalion commander, In this case, it was Colonel Sexton. And so they ushered me into Colonel Sexton's office. And Colonel Sexton says, come on in, you know. He says, sit down right here. And we start chatting about, life in the civilian and so on and so forth. And he goes, so how you doing? And, private. And I said, not too bad. And I'm going, this is not going to go down well. Something's going on here, And so Colonel says, so how's your mom and dad? And I says, oh, they're fine. He goes, how would you know? I said, beg your pardon, sir? He goes, you haven't written to them, you haven't told them anything, they don't even know where you're at. How would you know that they're all right? So he had me sit down right then and there and write a letter to mom and dad that I was okay, He says, address the envelope here. I'll give you the stamp and I will mail it for you. And don't ever let this happen again.
Oh boy.
He goes, I have never had the, what is it called, the Red Cross contact me about one of my troops regarding their parents. Never. And you are the only one that'll ever happen again, So that's it, Make sure this never happens again. So after that, I would dutifully write a letter a week, to mom and dad saying, hello, I'm fine, So, yeah.
Wow. Did you make any friends while you were over there?
Yeah, I had, to this day, I still have one friend, Owen Donovan. He's my best friend all the way through the military. And Owen and I, we got in and out of trouble all the time. And not really serious trouble, just, we were out on Liberty, you know what Liberty is, it's Pass. And they had a typhoon warning, and we had plenty of time to get back to the base, but we were just lazy and didn't want to go up there. So we got caught outside the base in the typhoon. Oh boy, did we get chewed out for that, because we could have made it into the base easily, And that's the kind of trouble I'm talking about, Not bad, And anyway, yeah, so.
Were you on the front lines?
No, well, front lines, that's a misnomer,
Yeah.
Yeah, if the front line was here and the fighting was there, Dave Duarte was over here in the back. Yeah. No, I was never in the front lines.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what were your duties then?
My duties in my last duty station was duty work, and demolitions was to identify where demolitions were, flag them, and then the real UDT guys, demo guys would come in, the ones with the gear on and everything, and the metal detectors, they would come up and locate it where I put the flag, where we put the flag, and then they would disarm them. So that was pretty safe duty. I mean, it sounds horrendous, but pretty safe.
So what did you do for fun when you were out?
Fun? Who had fun? Nobody had fun over there.
Well, getting in a typhoon doesn't sound like fun.
Went on Liberty. One of my favorite things to do when I had my last duty call was I had a kind of a 9 to 3 job, and so except for Fridays, every Friday I'd only work 9 to 12 or something like that, and I'd have the rest of the day off and the whole weekend off. So one of my favorite things to do then was take the Liberty bus from the base into town, like that. And then I would check into a hotel, and I would, it was a favorite hotel. And the hotels there are not like the hotels here, I mean, we're not talking about your Marriott or any of those other ones, so I'd go in there, and they would have a bath and a shower ready for me and everything, and then I get all cleaned up, and then I go into town and have a dinner, and dinner would consist of, I don't know, 5 to 7 courses or something like that, and it would cost me probably around 50 cents or something, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I would, let's see, I'd go home back to the hotel that night. Next morning, I'd go sightseeing or something like that. Maybe have them go down to a local restaurant and have them, pack me a little box lunch, and I would go have a picnic or something like that. And then more sightseeing. I'd go to museums or any buildings of historical value or anything like that, And then come Sunday night, I would go all the way back to the base, and so that next morning, Monday, I'd be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I'd report to duty on time. A lot of guys in those days used to do it to the max, and they wouldn't report back in until Monday morning, all hungover and everything, so anyway, that's what I did. It was pretty good. I liked it. That was the last duty station. I didn't do that very long. Yeah. That was Thailand. Yeah. I remember I was sightseeing in Hong Kong one time, and we were living aboard the ship at that time, and I got pickpocketed. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah, they took my wallet and my ID and my money and everything. So, and it was complete chaos. I was confined to the ship after that because I had no way of identification, and that wasn't fun.
I believe it.
Yeah. But while I was in Hong Kong, I got to see the, what do they call that? There's this tram that goes up to the top of the mountain. Top of the mountain there, overlooking Hong Kong, is where the English hospital is, and there's a restaurant up there, and we would go up there, and we would just get treated like royalty, like that. And so it was a lot of fun. Yeah. Then came back from overseas on that. That was the first deployment, and then I had taken leave so I could go up to take my mom, Aunt Amy, and Deanie, and we drove up to, had a brand new car, a brand new Corvair, and we drove up to Washington to see Danny, your tata, in coming out of boot camp up there, and visited him, and while we were visiting the the World's Fair, there was an announcement that they were recalling all the troops. This is the start of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And so a whole sequence of events happened after that. And then I had to report down to San Diego, and then from there we went through the Panama Canal and then over to Cuba. And that's when they, I was assigned to boat team 1-1 and all that other stuff, that was the second deployment, and then came back from there, and then back to Camp Pendleton, to again, regroup and refill our ranks, and then I was sent overseas again, and that was the third time. That was the Fleet Marine Force that we flew. Fleet Marine Force just floats around. A lot of people don't know this, but there's a battalion of Marines floating in the ocean, in every major ocean in the world. And our job there was off the coast of Asia, and we would be the first responder troops to go in on a crisis, the ocean crisis, and so on and so forth. So anyway, that's it.
It's a very important job.
Yeah, well, very boring.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, being in the Marines is 99% boredom, 10% cleaning up your gear, and about 1% standing inspection. Yeah, so anyway,
So where were you when the war ended?
I was home. I was drinking a beer.
Okay.
Yeah, I got discharged, and the Vietnam War really started to click over and get really heavy, and there was a mad push to have us all re-sign up, and ship over, they call it, and extend our enlistment. And I said, no, ain't never gonna happen, GI. And I left blue smoke peeling out the front gate, so, yeah.
So how'd you return home?
I was discharged at Alameda Naval Air Station out there in Oakland Bay, San Francisco Oakland Bay, and decided to stay up there. And then I remember I applied for the GI Bill to go back to school. And the sequence here is a little choppy, but I had to qualify to go back to school. I remember they were concerned about our returning troops, their well-being, their sanity, their psyche, and so on. So they sent me to be evaluated by this psychiatrist who was a professor at San Jose State. We spent the evening drinking coffee and telling jokes to each other, and that was it. That was the evaluation. And then they said, yeah, you can go back to school. So I qualified, and I applied. Accepted at Cal Berkeley, and it amazes me to this day. I only applied to one school, Davin, Kaylin, Danielle, they all applied to several schools, hoping to, that they get accepted. And here I am, one school, and I got accepted. Couldn't believe it. In hindsight, I was so fortunate, and in a way, that was like going back to boot camp. I had to relearn everything, and I like to term it, I still had mud on my boots, when I went to Cal, so, yeah. I was older than most of the students there, and so they looked at me and go, who's this old guy here, what's he doing here, Didn't matter, I was there to get my degree in architecture, and so that's what I did,
How were you received by your family in the community when you came home?
Not a problem. I mean, this was way before the baby killer, all that other stuff. There was an incident, I remember. There was an Army incident where this company, or platoon or something, and had gone into this village in Vietnam and wiped out every man, woman, and child. And it was called the My Lai Massacre. And the lieutenant that was in charge of that platoon or whatever, I forgot his name now, but they were in school. They were circulating a petition to, back him up. He kept claiming that he was only following orders, and the group that was circulating the petition was a bunch of veterans, and I refused to sign it. And they said, why won't you sign it? And I said, because every man has to make his own decision in his mind, whether it's following orders or the correct thing to do, the moral thing to do. And he weaned out. He took out, this excuse that he was only following orders. So they ostracized me. They thought I was really bad, and I said, too bad. So. And then history bore me out, that I was correct. The guy, he was wrong for making an excuse that he was following orders. Really? Okay.
How did you readjust to civilian life? It sounded like you did really good with college.
Yeah. Actually, I had a little trouble there, yeah, adjusting to civilian life. Yeah. To this day, I don't like neckties. To this day, I don't like wearing suits. You know, to this day, I can't. I detest meetings. You know, I haven't got time for them. I think they're a bunch of wasted time. And any meeting more than 2 people, I think, is just a bunch of hogwash. You know, so and I usually let people know that. You know, and so I'm always viewed as kind of a thorn. You know, somebody hard to get along with. And I said, I'm not hard to get along with. Just do everything that I say. Yeah. Anyway, so I had a little trouble at it in the beginning. You know, I learned to live with it. You know, so you know, Connie is my soulmate. She's the one that encouraged me to be more magnanimous, to be more forgiving. You know, to be more understanding. And she's always been my conscience, you know, and she's done a very good job of it. You know, so, and she takes good care of me. Anyway.
Have you remained in contact with any fellow veterans?
I did for a while. I got really involved in Veterans of Foreign Wars, and then for the Marine Corps League. But it was too constraining. You know, it was like going back in the service again. You know, they had uniforms and you had a salute and they had ceremonies, and I said, oh, bullshit, that's why I got out in the first place, you know. Yeah. So anyway.
And what have you done since separating from the military?
Absolutely nothing. But I've been trying to enjoy life, you know. I mean, I neglected my body and my health and neglected my children. And I'm trying to make up for that, you know, so. And my grandchildren, my grandnephew, you know. So I try to make up for it by remembering them and doing stuff for them. And otherwise, if it doesn't involve fishing, I don't want any part of it. No clubs, no groups, no associations, no leagues, no anything, you know. And I proudly wear the Marine Corps sticker on my car announcing that I'm a Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. And that's it. I'll go out of my way to help a fellow Marine. Out of my way, you know, I mean, you know, but, you know, no organizations. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How has your wartime experience affected your life?
Excuse me. We're trying to get somebody back in bed. Okay, go ahead. What was that?
How has your wartime experience affected your life?
How is it looked at? I hear guys talk about PSTD all the time, you know, and how it affected them and what they do, and you know, they'll wake up in the middle of the night or they'll jump out of their skin when they hear a noise or something like that. Fortunately, I never went through any of that, and you know, for some reason I was able to. Once I left the military, I shut the door, and that was it, you know. So, and I could just block it out after that, and that was pretty good for me. It worked for me anyway. Yeah. They once told me, says, you know, if you do this, if you apply for this, you can get a free Marine Corps dress uniform. And I said, why on earth would I want to do that? You know, and anyway, yeah, that's it. Okay.
What are some life lessons you learned from your service?
Well, that's almost an easy one. The best life lesson I learned from the Marines is there is no fail. You know, to paraphrase my father, your dad's father, he would say, there is no try, there is only do. And that was way before Yoda and all that other stuff, you know. And it's true, you know. Every time there is a challenge in life, you figure out a way to solve it. You don't give up and roll over and say that's it. You just figure out a way to do it, you know. So, and your great grandfather, my dad, and Davin, and I think you have that same quality. You'll look at something like this, you look at it, you'll see it, you'll pick it up for the first time and say, how can I make this work for me? You know, where can I make this fit? Where does this go? And I see it in Davin all the time, and I see it in saw it in my dad. My dad would do that, you know, and I see you doing it, you know, figuring out a way to make things work. That's a good quality to have, you know. Go ahead.
What message would you like to leave for future generations that will look at this interview?
That's a really good question. And the only messages I have is don't go to war. Stay out of war. War never solves anything. It really doesn't, you know, so. I'm a study of history, and I've been writing a book for ages and ages. I don't think you guys ever knew about this, but I wrote a book about my dad, Tata, and it affects you, affects your dad, affects Dennis and Danielle and Davin and you guys. And the book is about perseverance, overcoming challenges, and it's about the very subject I was just talking about, hitting these challenges and figuring out a way to overcome them, solving them, and that's my book. I don't know if I'll ever publish it, don't even care, you know, at this point, but I've been rewriting this book for ages and ages, and I just feel good about writing it, you know. And it's about all of my experiences in life, including the Marines, and it's about all my experiences with all of the challenges we had, you know. So, and I think at some point, somebody in the family would like to hear it or read it and get some satisfaction from it, you know. So I've never told Jeannie about it. I've never told Cindy about it. Connie knows about it, the book, and I don't think I told your dad about it. Now I've told you guys about it, you know. So I'll tell you the name of the book right now. The name of the book is called One of 1,000. That's all, you know. Just mark it down one of these days in your memory bank, you know. One of 1,000, and anyway, yeah. That's, what else you got?
Is there anything you feel that we haven't discussed or talked about that you'd like to?
Well, I can tell you about the time that I first had my first deployment overseas, and I was driving a really nice, as we used to say in those days, bitchin' 57 Chevy. God, I love that Chevy, you know. And that Chevy was white over Inca silver. It was gorgeous, you know. It had a small block Chevy in it. I think in those days they used to make a 283 or something like that. I'm not sure. And your Tata used to work for a guy named Red. What was his name? It was it was a cam builder in LA. Joe Ramirez got him the job, and Danny would go down there every day and travel from Fullerton to LA to this job, and they would build cams, you know, like that. Not exciting stuff, but you know. And so they asked him one day if he had a car they could use as a kind of a donkey guinea pig. So he took my car, you know, the 57, and they, in one day, they took it apart, put new cams in it, tried out the cam, put it on the dyno and tried it out. And then the next time he brought it, they would do the same thing, put a different cam in it and so on. So I never knew what I was gonna get. I was gonna get some, weird stuff like that. And towards the end, that engine was bored out, had a righteous cam in it, and it wasn't a 283 anymore. It was, really beefed up, And so Danny would, your grandfather, he would take it all the time. And it got to the point where Danny was saying that it was his car. And I go, no, it's my car. You're borrowing it, so remember that, But he would take it on weekends to the drag strip and drag it and everything else, So, so I had to put a limit on it, So when my first deployment, I drove the Chevy into the garage, put it up on blocks, took the wheels off, emptied the crankcase, emptied the gas tank, everything, and then I think I took the wiring apart somehow or something. I'm not sure about that, and told Danny, just leave my car alone. Don't do anything else to it. Well, that lasted as soon as I was out the door, And your grandfather took that car, drove it right into the ground. He blew the transmission, blew the rear end, blew the engine up, did all kinds of stuff like that. Wore the tires balls, And I go, God, I'm so, but I didn't know any of that. I didn't find that out until I got back from my deployment overseas, And so I went to when I got home, everybody was there except Danny. He was gone. And I asked where Danny was, and he said, well, he's at Fort Lewis, Washington, going through boot camp. And I go, oh, yeah. So I said, well, good for him, So I went out to the garage to go get my car and gas it up and everything. And there I see this wreck, it is a wreck, And I was pissed, I just got like that. God damn it, Danny, don't you son of a bitch, Of course, he was piling away. I couldn't do anything like that. And I could just picture your grandfather at the going, yeah. Anyway, that was Danny, yeah. That was a funny, How do we get on that subject?
Oh, well, is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
Let's see. No, yeah, that was about it. Yeah. That was a lot.